There's one verse in the Bible that completely dismantles Jehovah's Witness theology about Jesus. And no matter how hard they try, and trust me, they try hard, they can't explain it away. I've watched their best apologists spill pages of ink trying to work around this passage, and every time, they come up empty. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that verse is and why it proves Jesus is God. Here's what we're covering today. First, why Jehovah's Witnesses are so tough to debate. Second, the one thing they actually get right about the Trinity. And third, the silver bullet verse that takes down JW theology, proving that Christ is divine, specifically Jehovah God. And we'll look at how to use it the next time you meet them. Let's dive in. In my experience, the Jehovah's Witnesses are the hardest of the cults to debate. And I'm not talking about your average door-to-door evangelist. I'm talking about the ones who really know their stuff. Here's what's wild. I've been reading Greek for 17 years, but the really good JWs, they don't even know Greek, yet they can argue almost as well as if they did. How? They're incredibly well-versed on key points. They know exactly where Christians struggle. They've practiced their responses 1,000 times. And because they're in the minority, they're highly motivated to prove everyone else is wrong. But of all the Orthodox Christian doctrines they attack, their favorite target is, you guessed it, the Trinity. More specifically, the deity of Christ, the idea that Jesus, the Son, is God himself. Now, before we get to our main verse, there's something important the Jehovah's Witnesses say that's actually correct. They'll ask you, you believe in the Trinity, right? Show me where that word appears in the Bible. And your honest answer has to be, it doesn't. And here's the thing, they're making a good point. The word Trinity isn't in the Bible. The concept absolutely is. That's where the real debate happens, but the specific word isn't there. This catches a lot of Christians off guard. Some start questioning their whole theology over it. Some even become JWs themselves. Listen to what the Apostle Paul told Timothy. He said, "Hold fast to the form of sound words, which you have heard from me." That's 2 Timothy 1:13. Paul was telling Timothy, use the same words and definitions I used. Don't make up new concepts or add things that create unnecessary confusion. Why? Because that's how false teaching starts, and it gives wolves like the JWs an easy target to attack, a target the Bible actually never sets up. Now, am I saying that it's wrong to say Trinity? No. But does it create problems? Yes. Would it be harder for the JWs to attack if we just used the Bible's own words and explained it the way the Bible explains it? Absolutely. And fortunately, the Bible gives us those words, crystal clear. Okay, enough setup. Let's get to the good stuff. What's the one verse that completely dismantles JW theology about Christ? The verse that can't explain no matter how hard they try. It's John 12:41. Now, before you think, that's it? Just one verse? Hang on. The power here comes from understanding what John is quoting. And when you see it, you really can't unsee it. And best of all, neither can they. This passage records the last time Jesus taught the people in the temple at Jerusalem. He did many miracles, but they didn't believe in him. They rejected him. John then gives us a summary of his ministry among them and how they responded to him, and quotes 2 verses from the prophet Isaiah to explain why they rejected Jesus. Let's read the whole section. This is John 12:37 through 41.
But though he had done so many miracles before them, yet they believed not on him, that the saying of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, which he spoke, Lord, who has believed our report? And to whom hath the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, because that Isaiah said again, He has blinded their eyes, and hardened their heart, that they should not see with their eyes, nor understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. These things, said Isaiah, when he saw his glory, and spoke of him.
All right, you're probably thinking, where's the bombshell? Where's the proof of Christ's divinity? It's here, but the key is understanding the 2 passages from Isaiah that John references. The first quote is Isaiah 53. In verse 38, John quotes, Lord, who has believed our report? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? This comes from Isaiah 53, the famous chapter about the suffering Messiah. All we like the sheep have gone astray, but the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Now that makes sense because in this point in the gospel, Jesus is about to be crucified and fulfill that prophecy. So John connects Jesus' rejection to Isaiah's prophecy about the suffering servant. Okay, first quote explained. Now here is where it gets interesting. The second quote is Isaiah 6. In verse 40, John quotes, He has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, that they should not see with their eyes nor understand with their heart. Okay, this one's a little more obscure. It comes from Isaiah chapter 6. This is when God commissions Isaiah to proclaim judgment on Israel. But here's what you need to understand. Isaiah 6 isn't about the Messiah, it's about God himself. Let me show you. Isaiah 6 begins like this. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphims, and one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. Then Isaiah says, Woe is me, for I am undone, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. This is one of the most famous visions of God in the entire Bible. Isaiah sees Jehovah God himself sitting on the throne with angels crying, Holy, holy, holy. So you might be confused right now. Isaiah 53 is clearly about the Messiah, but Isaiah 6 is clearly about Jehovah God. So what's the connection to Jesus here? Here's where everything clicks into place. Look at John 12:41 one more time. These things said Isaiah when he saw his glory and spoke concerning him. Catch that? These things, that's plural. Isaiah said multiple things. What did Isaiah say? Two things. He spoke about the suffering servant in Isaiah 53. He saw someone's glory in Isaiah 6. So the question is, whose glory did Isaiah see in chapter 6? John just told us. He saw Jesus' glory. Let that sink in for a second. When Isaiah saw Jehovah God sitting on his throne, high and lifted up, with the temple full of his glory, with angels crying, Holy, 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 that was Jesus Christ. The one Isaiah spoke about in chapter 53 is the same God of Israel he saw in chapter 6. The one high and lifted up, the one whose glory filled the whole house. Now, JWs can play semantic games with a lot of verses about Christ's divinity. Like in John 1:1, they translate it as the Word was a God. Divine, but in a lesser sense, not quite the God. They fiddle with word order. They draw thin theological lines. They create escape hatches. I've seen them do it 100 times. It's actually impressive how creative they can get, but here, there's nowhere to run. John could not be clearer. He quotes two passages from Isaiah, one where Isaiah spoke of Jesus, chapter 53, and one where Isaiah saw his glory, chapter 6. And whose glory was in Isaiah 6? Not some lesser God, not a created being, not an angel. It was Jehovah, the Lord of hosts, holy, 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 the one whose glory fills the earth. John is telling us in the clearest possible terms that this was Jesus. If you want to know what kind of God I meant in chapter 1, verse 1 of my book, wonder no more. It's him, the great God, Jehovah. Here's the advantage we have with Jehovah's Witnesses. They claim the Bible is their only authority. Unlike Mormons or Catholics with their extra books and traditions, JWs say they let the Bible speak for itself. So when you show them this passage, you're meeting them on their own terms. And if they can't explain how Jesus can be equated with perhaps the most significant vision of God in all of Scripture, then maybe, just maybe, the rest of their theology about Christ falls apart too. Here's how I recommend using this. Don't lecture, ask questions. Have them explain to you who Isaiah 6 is talking about. Then show them John 12:41. Ask them to explain how John can say Isaiah saw Jesus' glory if Jesus isn't God himself. Watch what happens. They'll try to explain, they'll bring up their usual arguments, but this time, those arguments won't stick, because John made it too clear. I've used this approach multiple times now. It works because you're not attacking. You're genuinely asking them to help you and to help you understand their position. And when they realize they can't explain it within their own framework, that creates a genuine opportunity for truth. So we covered three major points. We looked at why JWs are tough to debate. They're incredibly prepared, and underestimating them is a mistake I won't make again. We acknowledge the one thing they get right about how Christians sometimes use non-biblical language and why that matters for how we present truth. And then we explored the silver bullet, John 12:41, where John explicitly connects Jesus to Isaiah's vision of Jehovah God in Isaiah 6. This isn't a verse you can explain away. It's too clear, too direct, too powerful. You know, one thing I respect about JWs, they're not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. And sometimes even the church needs that. For example, did you know that salaried pastors is actually not a biblical concept? That's probably contrary to everything you've been taught, I know, but it's true, and the biblical mandate that's actually given flips the entire system upside down. This is a controversial one, so if you can stomach it, check out this video.